Hello. On behalf of Virtual Speakers Association International, welcome to Unpolished Stories. In this podcast series, we are focused on what happens behind the spotlight, off stage, and in a professional speaker's life and work. My name is Celina Peerman, and I'm co hosting this program with Chantelle. We are excited to bring you conversations that inspire, support, and remind you that we are all human navigating this professional speaker's world. Chantelle and I both have the opportunity to serve as task force chairs with VSAI. We invite you to check out Virtual Speakers Association International. It is a great investment into your own skills and knowledge to grow your speaking business. It also complements a membership with a professional speakers association in your home country, if there is one. If you want to have even more access to global conversations and diverse voices from all over the world, we invite you to join us. Unpolished Stories will be available on many common podcast platforms, LinkedIn, as well as VSAI social media platforms. Take a listen, and we'd love to hear your stories and lessons learned too. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first, we hope, of a number. Unpolished Stories, right? This is speaking beyond the spotlight, and it's our pleasure to welcome you and thank you for joining in today. My name is Dr. Celina Peerman, and for our conversation today, I would like to introduce my co-host, Chantelle. Chantelle.
Celina, I'm so excited to be launching this podcast. We have brainstormed about it, we've spoken about it, and I think you and I share exactly the same heart, where ultimately we want to remind speakers that we're humans first and speakers second. And we want to bring that human through. We want to get to the real stories. We want to get to the heart of the stories. And we want to encourage our speakers to be real people. So I'm so excited about this launch episode and many more to come.
Thank you. And, I think to your point, and what we've been wrestling with is, as professional speakers, there's lots of show, right? But it's behind the scenes that we can learn the best from each other. And so we framed a model around what are some of those minor things that happen that we just wish, and they're those learning moments. What are some of the medium and the bigger things that happen that really do take a recovery plan? And how can we help each other as professional speakers, whether, anyone watching or listening to this later, whether you're newer and you're trying to figure out the speaker world and what does that look like? And, is it part of your passion or your expertise? Are you trying to make a living at it? What does it mean to you? Whether you're somewhere along the journey and you've had a few lessons learned and you went, I'm not going to do that again, right? Or at the other side of, you've had some experience, we want to learn and share together. And yet what we also know is we can still make some pretty big ones or have some major recoveries, no matter how long we've been in this business, right?
Oh, yeah. And I'm just going to drop you right into it. I will never forget the story of the baby puke down your back.
So it was early in my speaking career, right? I had little ones at home and I'm on
Oh,
stage with a group for a long period of time and I go out to break and someone points out the fact that I baby puke all down my blazer and I'd been on stage all morning. It would have been helpful to know that a little sooner.
thank you. Right.
I love to remind my adult daughter of that now, right? Like, thank you. So some of them we recover and we laugh and we tell stories about them,
Yeah,
but darn it, some of them are pretty darn hard, right? And
absolutely.
that's what I think we're really just looking forward to, the conversations
Yeah,
about those and how can we help each other in that. So
that's it.
Chantelle, let's not hold this up anymore. We have an amazing guest today with us today. Would you please introduce her?
Absolutely. It is my pleasure to introduce Charlotte Kemp to us today. Charlotte Kemp is joining us all the way from Cape Town, South Africa, as am I. Now, Charlotte Kemp is a futurist keynote speaker and executive leadership coach. She is a past president of her home association, Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa, and the immediate, as of 1 week ago, past president of the Global Speakers Federation. She is also the Chief Relationship Officer for Voices into Africa, which serves the professional speakers and business events profession across the continent of Africa. Charlotte, so good to have you with us today.
Thank you both, Chantelle and Celina. And I didn't realize I was the very first guest, so I am honored. Thank you very much.
Such a pleasure, such a pleasure. Now, I've chatted to Charlotte extensively about her blopses and oopsies, and I might have a little bit of insider information. So I'm hoping to ask some really good leading questions and get to the juicy stuff with you today, Charlotte. But I think I'm going to start with the glitz and glamour of the professional speaking industry and this desire that we all seem to have to travel. You know, as speakers, the first thing we say is, I want to travel the world. I want to stand on those big stages, right? So, having just served your year as president of GSF, I know you've done this. Is it all that it's cracked up to be?
It's a dream come true. When we do start, like you just said, as professional speakers, we look at the other people that we assume are having really wonderful careers, and we want to emulate them. And that kind of epitome of a perfect professional speaking career looks like the international speaker on all the big stages. And in this last year, I have gone to more countries than I have before, and everything from Canada, India, Australia, so right across the board. I have met wonderful people. I have had some amazing experiences. There have been gala dinners. There have been awards. I have been taken care of and treated like a VIP. I've handed out awards to people. I've judged on speaker competitions. That's all been wonderful. But when I look back on this year, I will not be able to forget the trauma of travel because it has been quite horrendous. So it takes like 2 days to get to a place from Cape Town in South Africa. So there's all these overnight flights. There's, all the long time ago, international travel used to look really luxurious, but now it's like everybody's packed into the back of the plane. It's all just kind of like a conveyor belt of people. And yeah, there have been some pretty horrendous moments. So just to let people know, along with, being in the most beautiful hotel I have ever seen in Canada, in Quebec City, old Quebec City, days before Christmas in the snow, to fainting on every flight, at least on one flight on every trip. Having to crawl down the aisle after having passed out and had the cabin crew think that I was drunk. Sitting in airports overnight for hours, having lost my cable and then discovering that the staff are all striking. Having my feet swell up so much that I can't put my shoes on. That is the reality of what goes on behind this. It's not all glitz and glamour. We need to kind of weigh it up and balance, and we can actually design a career for ourselves, a speaking career, that takes into account whether we're good at travel or whether we don't want to do that. There's no reason that we can't have international global access from our homes wherever we are. So yeah, it has been quite a journey this last year, experiencing that kind of the contrast of those two experiences.
I love what you say about we can craft a career that takes into account our personal requirements. I mean, it's something I always say to my clients, and I think we need to start becoming more intentional about that. So yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
the worst part was the one time when I crawled down the aisle and I got to the cabin crew section, and they honestly thought that I was drunk. And then they kind of go into overdrive and they think that they need to call a doctor to come and take care of me. And it's just one of those kinds of situations on the side that just kind of sours everything else that has happened. So I think, yes, really designing a career that satisfies what we can do, yeah, a much better option than just automatically assuming that this is all going to be fun and games.
Absolutely. Well, while we're on the subject of designing a career, again, as speakers, we're taught to be intentional about our careers. And part of that intentionality is to get involved with your local speakers association, to serve on a leadership board, to volunteer, to give back to the community. And I've spoken with a number of speakers who've served on leadership boards, and they've said that it's positioned their career, or has poised their career for really taking off. Conversely, I've spoken to other people who've done the same and said didn't do anything for them. So my question to you is, having served on both your local leadership board as well as your international leadership board, is how have you leveraged your career as a result of this?
Thank you. I think one of the amazing insights that I got as a leader in this space is what a colleague of ours, Ian Hatton, talks about positional leadership. And in our conversations, he discovered I'm very good at positional leadership. He is not very good at positional leadership. And that insight really helped me to understand how I was using my position. So in positional leadership, you embody the position, and a lot of people look at that position as important, but there's actually two things. It's your character and that positional character. So as president of the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa, at that point, only the third woman who had been president in our long history, it meant that it gave me immediate kind of positioning, perhaps in my own mind, to be able to reach out to people in other parts of the world. And that was when I really kind of leaned into that, forming relationships, connecting with people, talking to people, and COVID helped that as well, that we were all kind of stuck behind our computers, so we could use our online platforms to do that. But those relationships have been absolutely invaluable in both directions. I have learned so much. I've gained so much insight, and I've been able to pass that on to other people. So I believe it can be used very intentionally. Again, working behind the scenes in leadership is not all glitz and glamour. There are hundreds of hours that are unaccounted for from anybody on the outside of a situation, because they can't see all the work that has to be done in the background. There's an expression I like to think of, the Houdini effect. Houdini was that magician who could, get out of locked boxes. And he said that the trick to creating that kind of attraction was that you want to make the easy things look difficult and the difficult things look easy. So you want your leadership to look effortless. You want to have time to listen to people and hear what their concerns are and address them. But behind the scenes, all the difficult stuff is happening that they don't necessarily notice. But if we do have that opportunity and we are prepared to use it, it means that we can get a perspective of our local kind of community of speakers in our country, or internationally, as we would with organizations like the Virtual Speakers Association. So when we had that perspective, again, we just learn so much. We can gain so much insight from people all over the world. And that perspective is the important part. What happens, though, is very often people who do not like that kind of positional leadership, they very often look at leaders and assume that they are just taking it for the glory, for their own benefit, so that they can have advantages, without acknowledging or even realizing the depth of the investment that they have made into that leadership role. And if they get some benefit out of it, they absolutely deserve it. So that's my encouragement. If somebody is that kind of positional leader, then take full advantage of whatever your association can offer you in terms of that.
Awesome. Amazing. I'm going to pick up on something you said, and you said it earlier on, and I think we might have missed it, and I really just want to highlight it. You spoke about how it gave you this position, or it positioned you, but perhaps in your mind. And that's so powerful. That's a confidence tool. That's a leverage tool. So I really just wanted to highlight that, because that kind of stood out to me. So yeah.
It has been
I think I'm
amazing.
gonna.
Sorry, I keep interrupting. It has been amazing to see people reflect things back to me that I thought I'm working on this. I'm trying to develop this, capacity in myself, and people assume I have it already. When I was thinking about standing for the position of GSF president, I had a timeline, And I actually started my timeline 3 years earlier than I had planned, because other people said, come, it's time to step up. And I hadn't anticipated that I was ready yet. So sometimes we need to catch up ourselves to where the rest of the world sees us. And as professional speakers, as thought leaders, as influencers, we all need to be able to do that. We already have an impact. We need to step into that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I love the fact that you're so willing to share your stories with us, but it tells me that a lot of people know your stories. So I'm going to ask you for a story. Share a story with us that not many people know. It could be funny. It could be one of the really serious ones. I don't know what's springing to mind now, but I'm probing a little bit.
Yeah, there are quite a few. I feel like I might be reflecting all of the really tough, difficult things. So I hope your audience realizes that there's a lot of huge benefit about this. But I'll tell you, I'll tell you a practical set of things that I check before I speak, which might be able to help people to anticipate what will happen for them. If you are a woman speaker or even a gentleman speaker these days, and you wear a skirt on stage, make sure that you've got a pettiskirt underneath that so that the light doesn't shine through. I don't wear skirts, but I've seen that twice, and it's really, really difficult to cope with. Besides sitting there checking your jacket, we always have to kind of check for those things. But I wear a strapless bra on stage, because the last thing you want is to adjust your bra while you're busy gesticulating with your hands. I take an antihistamine before I speak so that my nose doesn't run and I don't have to pause, and that's really awkward in the middle of a keynote. And as a woman of a certain age, I also wear layers so that I would very easily be able to take off a jacket if I overheat, because you don't want to be standing there going, bright red and sweaty. So there you go, some practical things that have come from real experiences I've had. And
Love it. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think for our female audience, absolutely on point. Charlotte, you know what? To come back to the speaking industry, and we started this conversation talking about the perception of the glitz and glamour. And I think there's a lot of myths and a lot of foibles and a lot of untruths or perceptions about the speaking industry. What is a common myth that you've come across in the speaking industry, and how have you worked to overcome this perception in the market?
I think for me, it's a series of growing realizations about our audience and what it is that we do. So the first realization came from a women's mastermind that I was involved in for a number of years. And one day, after having met for about, I don't know, 14 or 15 times, we suddenly, all of us had this sudden insight that some of us were there and prepared to speak for no fee in order to sell our products and services or books or others of us would give away books and programs and do coaching and things like that in order to get the paid speaking engagement. And that insight of how we use speaking in our business was the first step for me really realizing what it is we do. So when I work with speakers in terms of helping them to position themselves for opportunities, that is one of the very first things. We have to work out how their business model works. The second one is really getting clear for them the difference between the client and the audience. And both of them deserve our respect. And we have to deliver for both of them, and what they want is not the same thing. So the client is paying you to do something or giving you a platform to speak, and they want certain outcomes and deliverables. But the audience isn't sitting there worrying about their productivity or the bottom line. They're there, trying to understand something, whatever our topic is, but how that will make their lives better or give them better insights or make their business better or their love life better, whatever it is. So the client and the audience is very different. And then just recently, I'm starting to kind of tease out this other problem we have. Very often we have speakers who, when they've got a product or a book, they want to sell it to other speakers. And we love each other, but we're not going to buy each other's books all the time. I have got a bookshelf full of my speaker colleagues' books, and I love them, but I actually don't even have time to read all of those books. But we shouldn't see each other as clients. We're part of a community. And there are a handful of speakers around the world who can say other speakers are their clients, but for the majority of us, we're not. So we need to look out and look at two parts: the audience, the people who are going to listen to us. When we go and stand in front of an audience, they're not there to hear what we want to tell them. They are there to learn something that they want from us, and we've got to deliver that. On the other hand, we could have a tribe of people who follow us because of what we talk about. And you get that with influencers. So an influencer will be talking about one topic. If they change their topic, their tribe will go with them, because the tribe is going, what are you talking about? But for most audiences, and certainly many situations, the audience isn't interested in you. They're interested in what you are bringing to them for their insight. Right. So that whole distinction of clients, audience, and tribe, I think, is something quite phenomenal that we need to all really wrestle with. Because if we keep trying to treat our audiences like tribes, it's not going to work. And if we're delivering to the audience but not the client, we're not going to get paid, or hired again next time. So that's what we're really trying to kind of unfathom for ourselves.
I love the way you've illuminated that. It's almost like a prism. I've got this perspective of a prism, and there's light shining at it from different angles and coming out at different angles. And I think we've got to be so mindful of that. Celina, anything from your side?
Yeah, what you just also made me think about. So I had been a long established speaker and really came to associations later. Like I kind of said this would have been better about 15 years ago, but I somehow never caught up with that. But I also came back to it happens when it's supposed to, right? So, I was an established speaker and I came into this community, and the first things after almost the first things were people trying to sell me from other speakers. And I went, wait a minute, wait a minute. Maybe I haven't been missing anything, right? And there were some conversations in there where I really had to work through and go, wait a minute, I was looking for community, right? I was looking to receive and give, right? That I wanted to learn some new, I wanted to take it to the next level. I wanted to support and encourage others. And that was almost not my first. My first one was really good. And it was a powerful conversation, which I'll tell a story on a future episode about that. But then everything after that was just this onslaught of selling to me from my community. And while I think there's certainly support there, right, and things we can do for each other, there are some that are not maybe as respectful as I would have thought of the community itself. So I love your points on that, of being able to see that, as Chantelle said, from multiple facets. And then really being clear of how are we trying to support each other and how are we trying to take care of all of our audiences, right, together.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Humans first, speakers second.
Second, yes. I love your phrase on that. Yes, it has become a rallying cry.
Absolutely. There you go. Charlotte, before we close, I'm going to ask you one last question. If you could give one piece of advice to your earlier speaker self, what would it be?
Be bolder sooner.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte, for taking this time with us. So for folks who are checking this out, speakers at all stages of their career, maybe they haven't even thought about, I can be a professional speaker. If they want to connect with you and your work, what's the best ways for them to find you?
Oh, LinkedIn will be the best place to find me. I'm very active there and share a lot of content on LinkedIn.
Super. Thank you. Chantelle, any other closing comments as you think about, first, this was a bit of an experiment. We came together just recently and said, I think we got something here, right? We want to go behind the curtains. We want to go beyond the spotlight and go, what else, folks? What else can we learn from each other?
You know what I love, Celina? I love the fact that you and I can come together and we can unearth this authenticity in a professional context. And Charlotte's closing words just stuck for me. Be bolder sooner. Here we are being bold and encouraging everyone else to be bold. I don't think there's much left to add to that.
Very good. Great way to bring it all together. And we can't wait to see where these conversations and stories take us next. We'll see you all back next time.